You clicked on this video for an iceberg, and by God, are you going to get an iceberg. We have the 1000 Unsolved Mysteries iceberg. This has been my own personal pet project, my Tower of Babel, if you will, my thing to spite God. Because it's not enough to have just been the guy who has made the most icebergs explained videos on YouTube. I also knew to explain the biggest one out there, and no one is going to take this from me. So, if you'd like to join me on my delusional and fun ride, go ahead, buckle your fuckles, get cozy, grab some snacks, put me on in the background, because we're getting into 10 select mysteries from this iceberg. Starting this video off proper and fucking grim, we have Dr. No. And I'm not talking about the James Bond film. Trigger warning for the upcoming segment. This is a discussion of murder, and if you don't like that, go ahead and just skip. Or leave. It's totally okay and understandable if you do so. So, we start on April 24th of 1981. It is this day in Miami County, which is a weird name for a place in Ohio, that the body of an unidentified Jane Doe, who for the next 38 or so years would be called Buckskin Girl, was found. She was well-dressed, well-groomed, and showed no signs of sexual assault. But she was beaten and strangled, which is understandably a bit of a problem, also on top of the whole being dead thing. This case was left to be, with detectives trying to pick up leads but not finding much because this was the 80s and you could do just about anything and get away with it. The next victim was found on June 16, 1985. Her name was Marcia Matthews, and she was alive, just terribly beaten when she was found 1 mile away from a Union 76 truck stop. On July 20th of 1986, known prostitute Shirley Dean Taylor was found beaten and strangled. December of 1986, the cunt strikes again, and 18-year-old April Barnett is found after vanishing from a Union 76. Literally days after this, 28-year-old Jill Allen is found. Things slow again until February of 1987, when 27-year-old Annie Marie Patterson is found outside of Cincinnati. On August 10th of 87, an unidentified Jane Doe is found in Ohio. November 22nd of 87, LaMonica Cole, age 19, is found in Pennsylvania. Then 31-year-old Terry Rourke is found in New York. And lastly, in 1990, a third unidentified Jane Doe was found off the I-70. And then there's nothing. For decades. It's worth noting that while in this time the search for the killers stood still, the search for the victims did not, and all three Jane Does were identified as Marcia King, Beverly Davis, and Patrice Anita Corley. It's also worth noting that every single killing follows the same MO. Probably prostitutes, all choked and beaten to death all along the I-70. There's some debate as to whether or not Beverly Davis should be included in the discourse, but she is in my videos, and blow me about it if you disagree. Suspect-wise, though, the hunt was not looking good. We start in 1991, where 36-year-old Alvin Wilson, resident of Lake County, Ohio, and trucker, was labeled as a suspect. See, his hair was a match for some of the hair found on the victims of Dr. No. Great news for detectives and very bad news for Mr. Wilson, especially considering that he had been officially arrested for trying to strangle a prostitute. However, Wilson's DNA test results came back as inconclusive, and he was not charged for the crimes of Dr. No. In between the last guy and our next investigated suspect, we have two truckers, John Fantenbury and James Robert Cruz, who killed other prostitutes, but once again the tests came up not matching. The next proper suspect we have comes in 1995 when 28-year-old Sean Patrick Goebel is arrested. Goebel was a long-haul trucker and had committed some crimes in over 10 states, which makes it seem like this sick murder-greedy fuck has a pretty good shot at being Dr. No. However, Goebel was too young, as he was still in high school when the murders started and in the army through the first half of the 80s, which is kind of what we would call a major issue. The last suspect the case had, before seeming to fizzle out, was Delmas Corvin, as a suspect due to DNA profiling. But he was in New Jersey killing prostitutes, which clears him of the Dr. No title because Dr. No was not in New Jersey. This is typically the part of the video where I talk about the sheer fucking ineptitude of cops and the tragedy of unsolved killings, but in the time between the making of this iceberg and the making of this video, it's no longer unsolved. They got his ass. As it stands currently, Samuel Lake, former trucker along the I-70, stands charged cop because he committed crimes again and was beamed by DNA evidence. When they ran him for that crime, they also got him for the Dr. No killings. Though the courts are currently not disclosing much, with the case mired down by psychosis claims, the MO and the time frame line up, and likely Lake did it, and more likely Lake will be punished. So, in a rare instance when I discuss true crime, it's solved and there's resolution. Fun fact, I'm only 19. Alright, up next in the discussion circle here we have a different kind of circle. Fairy circles. In the myths of the Fae, there was the idea of a fairy circle, something that, if you stepped into, you were trapped under their power. Unfortunately, the Fae were not the elves and fairies in the bizarrely sexualized way we know them today, and would have just done some very bad stuff to you, and not in a hot, sexy way, so put away your dick. Luckily, or maybe unluckily, the fairy circles we're talking about today are not the ones of the Fae myth, but the ones of Africa and Australia. In the Namib Desert, and one part of Australia, there are grass formations in the shape of a ring. The grass grows in a tall circle, and then nothing grows inside of that circle, which can be 20 meters wide and live between 30 to 60 years. Weird, because where is the grass? Easy setup to discuss the theories, because these wonky-ass circles have been the center of debate and much speculation, and so there's a ton of pre-existing research and work that I get to pilfer through and get my grubby little hands on. Let's start by discussing the theories that have been thoroughly disproven. First up, radiation. I would really like to be in the office with the guy who suggested that, because that is not how radiation works. Up next, we have termites, and while sand termites can cause no plants in a circle and can live in all the circles, there's not a lot of evidence for them being there, which is convenient. After that, we have plant toxins, which there are not enough of in circles. So why is no grass growing in these random circles? The short answer is, we have no clue. The long answer is, we have two running theories. Theory 1. Organization. It was noted in Australia that the circles were there because the plants arranged themselves, only growing where water and nutrients could be maximized for the whole field, ending up in circles, and perhaps it's something like that. It's plant communism. Theory 2. Gas diffusion. If gas were to be seeping up through the earth and out through the circle, gas-loving microbes would consume said gas and all of the nutrients in the circle. However, I find this unlikely on account of there doesn't seem to be higher concentrations than normal of any gases in the area. But also I haven't studied this, so maybe that is what's going on. Weirder still with this whole thing is that rings in nature aren't exactly unique, because trees in boreal forests and fungi do similar things. In boreal forests, the forest rings are just as unknown. No one gets why they do it, though the OG fungus fairy rings are caused by a colony growing outward. Science doesn't seem to offer a satisfying conclusion to the ones in the desert, though, and looking at the legend of the local peoples, we find myths of gods and dragons, and it's hardly an answer. Due to the remote nature of this mystery and the unpredictability of rain, I doubt we'll have much new to pour over anytime soon, and I'm kind of stumped. Call me a tree. Things are gonna happen if I keep being unfunny like this. I was talking with this one broke girl. No car. She must have been a screw the way she wanted me to drive her. Your actions have consequences, kids. And one day you're gonna have to pay up. Up next, we've got the multiverse. The multiverse. Prepare for a clusterfuck. In short, the multiverse is a hypothetical concept in physics where for some reason or another there is more than one universe. Now you're probably familiar with the concept through media, as multiverses are often used for storytelling, lazy or otherwise. Though the premise of an infinite number of alternate realities seems tantalizing and makes sense to us, the actuality of it within provable science is a different story. This mystery essentially boils down to whether it is or isn't true, and for this entry I will just be discussing the various theories of the multiverses and possible debates against them. The first theory I bring to the table is the distance theory. We still don't know if the universe has an edge. Logically, it has to, because it doesn't compute with the brain for there to be infinite matter, except for the fact where the universe doesn't care what's logical or illogical to us, it just simply fucking is. But we don't know if it's infinite, so this first interpretation of the multiverse is that though this universe ends, travel far enough and you'll find an exact replica of the universe because the universe has no edge. It's repeating within itself. So basically with this, if you traveled far enough, you wouldn't come back to this Earth, but you would find another Earth that is a one-to-one replica of the Earth that you left. With this theory, there's basically only a finite number of ways to configure matter, so eventually it's going to repeat itself, and that technically creates another reality, so you could consider it a multiverse. I don't think that it's quite right, though. There's also another interpretation within this theory, which is the pinch-off theory, which is that the universe does end, but there's another one. And this could be caused by different rates of inflation. If the universe is inflated at different rates, it's possible that some of the universe accidentally pinched itself off, and the universe separated themselves into multiple ones. One could argue with this theory, though, that it is still the same universe with just a large void in the fabric of reality before things get back to normal, and back to the just super big universe theory that's not really a multiverse, it's just a universe that infinitely contains itself. And you might be like, there's not really a functional difference, and you'd kind of be correct. Now, the second major theory we have regarding the multiverse relies on something more akin to an actual parallel universe. We don't fully understand all dimensions just yet either, which leads us to the many worlds interpretation. Thank God this bit of theory is much more well written and thought out, because the many worlds interpretation supposes that there is, get this, many worlds occupying the same space and time as ours. Here's where it gets weird, though. There's a debate on if this would count as a multiverse system. Same issue with the pinch-off or the widespread theory, we can just call that the same universe. I digress, though. In a system of infinite worlds, all randomness is removed from physics and quantum mechanics. Easy peasy. Except for fucking everything, especially considering that there are multiple forms of other worlds that I don't even know if I should get into. So against the multiverse theory, we have nuh-uh! Actually, there's a belief that multiverse in fact undermines physics. I don't want to seem biased here, but most of the pushback is due to dissatisfaction, which is typical for a kind of arrogance you see a bit in research. However, the multiverse theory was only propositioned to just remove randomness from mathematics, which is also extraordinarily arrogant, so I can't really push there. Regardless of if it's true or not, I cannot say. It remains an untangible thing to prove and an intriguing thing to think upon. Elisa Lam. Eliza Lam has to be one of the most bizarre and haunting cases ever, and because of that, it's one of the most discussed cases on this side of YouTube. I'm pretty sure I've talked about it at least twice in this channel's history, and thousands of other channels have taken their various interpretations and curations to share here. So maybe you don't know this super famous case, or maybe you're just killing time and enjoying the ride. Either way, thank you for still listening to this video. Let's go ahead and get into this. This starts extremely bizarrely with the fact that Lam was an active Tumblr blogger. This has nothing to do with the case, I just found it interesting. In 2012, Eliza Lam was struggling with mental health, and mental health is of great importance in this case. Put a pin in it and save it for later. Lam was diagnosed with bipolar and got treatment in the form of medication, though she had a track record of going off her meds and getting the reward of hallucinations and other extremely adverse side effects. I'm going to go ahead and take a break from the discussion of the mystery here to say that if you are on medications, don't stop taking them. Am I anti-establishment and don't like the system? Yes. Does that mean stop taking your schizo meds because Big Pharma's going to fuck your ass? No. I don't give a fuck what you're doing. Is this specifically pointed at a few people in my life who watch my YouTube channel and are my close friends and do this same shit right here? You bet your ass. But anyone else who needs to hear it, don't stop taking your meds. Terrible idea. Anyway, this detail will come into play later. In January of 2013, Eliza Lam planned a trip to California because California is the perfect place for 21-year-olds, and I don't mean that in a sarcastic manner. On January 26th, Lam checked into the Cecil Hotel. She was originally in a shared room, but her roommates complained of odd behavior, like leaving notes that said "get out" and "go away" and requiring a password for entry. She was then moved to a solo room, and in her final days she also managed to get kicked out of a live filming of Conan, which is intriguing in a strangely mundane way, and used by many as points for that first thing I told you to put a pin in later. On her final day, Lam was described by those who saw her as happy and outgoing, which obviously is not going to last for long. The last time Lam was ever seen, and part of why this case is so universally known within the online true crime community, is footage from an elevator security camera. Chances are you've seen it. Chances are I need to be careful to not get copyright claimed with this bit of video. But anyway, In this video, Lam acts like someone is after her, ducking into the elevator and making strange gestures. She pushes every button, waits around for the elevator to close, and when it doesn't, she leaves. This is January 31st, and she would not be seen alive ever again. The investigation begins in earnest on February 6th, the whole week after her disappearance, because, that's right, the authorities waited a week. Dogs are brought through the hotel. Her room is searched, and it is found that all of her belongings are still in there. It is a properly difficult mystery. It would seem that she isn't in the hotel at all. Now, when February 13th is when that video I mentioned is released to the public in a bid to get clues, and this sparks a storm of conspiracy, people claiming the footage is slowed or edited, but not much in the way of clues. It would seem that this mystery was doomed to fizzle, out the way that many others do. Maybe it would have until residents of the hotel started complaining about black and foul-tasting water. On February 19th, Santiago Lopez was the sorry bastard tasked with checking the water tanks, and in a tank responsible for supplying some of the rooms, a kitchen, and a coffee shop with water was the body of Elisa Lam, which is a unique kind of disgustingly gag-worthy and horrifying, because not only was this poor woman dead, but many people were drinking dead woman soup, which is just disturbing. Now, the primary question here is, how the fuck did she get in there? And the official investigation offers no answer. It just tells us, it was kind of an accident, and goes on to say no foul play. Notable from the autopsy report are signs that she had either gone off her meds or was underdosing, and that her body had been in there so long it started marbling and turning green. So what happened? We can start with the official explanation, which is she went off her meds, was geeking, and proceeded to accidentally self-exit Minecraft game. Now the first issue is, how did she get onto the locked roof? Easy, fire escape. New question, how did she get into a water tower that has no set way on? You have to take a ladder with you, a water tower that you have to bring a ladder with you to access. Maybe someone left one up there, but here's where it starts to get very iffy, because lastly, how does she close the water tower from the inside when the latches are outside? If you look at this too closely, a lot of the explanation just falls apart. Now, before I carry on, there is one relevant theme with looking into alternative solutions for this mystery, which is you'll find a lot of pushback against doing just that from mainstream media, and I don't want to sound like some fascist, brain-dead nerd who's like, mainstream media. That's not what I'm going for here. But sometimes you want to look for a different answer, and sometimes it just isn't provided. And in this case, it seems like just massive bootlicking. A lot of the general consensus amongst the legacy media is how fucking dare these YouTubers question the officials. And to touch on this, authority is oftentimes extremely untrustworthy and outright despicable. Cops are bastards, and I don't trust them or their associates. Most people shouldn't for their own safety, but I would put that aside if the official explanation made sense. When the cops do their job, the rare instance that happens, I'm very glad to see it. And it would look like they didn't do their job here. Another issue I've had with this case is the outright demonization of mental illness, especially bipolar disorder. I'm pretty thoroughly out there, I guess, in that I hang out with people who have mental illness and all of that stuff. But you can't just blame a set of bizarre circumstances on often misunderstood ailments. Mental illness doesn't make people stupid. It makes them feel the inclination to act stupid at times, but it doesn't make them just outright stupid. And a big part of properly covering true crime cases is recognizing the humanity of the victims. And saying all of this is Elisa's fault is nonsensical without providing adequate proof. So what did happen? There's some other details, like the fact that her clothes were taken off and covered in sand, the same sand that covered the roof, and that dogs were on the roof and didn't smell her. So something here clearly doesn't make sense, because why didn't the dogs notice she was very nearby? Something doesn't add up. Now, listing any suspects is far beyond my caliber and can be disastrous. Unlike some other jackasses, I will not be doing that. There's no evidence available to me that points to anyone being the perpetrator. It could be a cover-up, definitely not of a federal proportion, because anyone who reads declassified CIA docs knows the Fed covered their shit up very neatly. So maybe of the cop kind, but what could the cops have possibly had against Lam? Overall, the case is frustrating in that no matter what way you look at it, it just doesn't make sense. I started talking to this super cool girl, and my friends, I mentioned that I was a YouTuber. My friends showed her the YouTube channel, and for reference, I'm recording this before the Fallout Equestria video comes out. but that is scheduled and set to be the first video that this woman sees me post. Rest in peace to my reputation, man. The things I do for this channel. Anyway, we're pretty solidly into the video by now, so thank you for still being here and for watching. I could go ahead and get into an ad segment by going and grabbing my book, which you should buy. Link is in the description, but I'm not going to do much of that, so once again, thank you for watching. Let's go ahead and get to the next mystery. Capitol Hill Mystery Soda Machine. This one is quick and easy, the opposite of a hookup with someone you should not hook up with. The Mystery Soda Machine is a 70s themed Coke vending machine that provides sodas, but here's the catch. All of the sodas haven't been available since the 80s. The mystery here is who owns the thing, because no one ever sees a soda machine restocked or take money. The mystery also became, where did it go? Originally, it was located in front of a locksmith, but in 2018, the account for it said needed to go for a walk, and it vanished, before eventually reappearing in Shoreline, Washington in 2022. Unfortunately, it vanished again, and it hasn't been seen at all in recent memory. So, the mystery of the goofy goober little machine will persist, because unfortunately we don't know where it went, but it seemed interesting while it was there. Devil monkeys. I know cryptid entries are meant to get bizarre, but this one is bizarre in a way I wasn't quite prepared for, which is to say mundane. The devil monkey is a small primate that has been spotted seemingly across the entire Northern America continent. Ranging from Flagstaff, Arizona to goddamn Canada, this monkey is everywhere. So what is it? Though certain encounters attribute to it a certain supernatural mystique, from sparse reports there are, that being the truth of the matter seems unlikely. Likewise, naming every sighting would be nonsensical because it's been sighted, like I said, everywhere from New Hampshire town in 2001 to the Native Americans and First Nation folk actual thousands of years ago, and thus the mystery becomes monkey or not monkey. In the camp of there is a monkey, we have some evidence, like the fact that primates do currently live in South America, and thanks to the fossil record we can prove that some have lived in North America, perhaps some survived and exist to this day. In the camp of there's no monkey, we have the common issue within cryptozoology. No shit. All life leaves behind evidence it was there. Footprints, feces, bedding areas, bones. All animals eat, sleep, shit, fucking die, and there should be evidence of that in their environments. If there are primates roaming the vast Northern American wilderness, where's the evidence? As of right now, we have none. By sheer incident rate of sightings, I wouldn't say there's nothing out there, but by virtue of lack of proof, it seems as though I can't come to an actual conclusion yet, and so I won't. Jim Gray. Jim Gray is a man you may not know, but you absolutely know his work, and you probably know the other videos on it done by, oh my god, how did I forget his name? Done by Blame It On Jorge. Gray was a software designer whose work allows databases to run. If not for him, our infrastructure would still be in paper, but Gray's work is overshadowed by his odd disappearance. Gray was an experienced sailor, having grown up in San Francisco and lived in New Jersey. In January of 2007, he took a short solo trip on his 12-meter boat to spread his mother's ashes at sea, and he never returned. The ensuing search found none of his beacons were ever activated, his boat was never found, and nothing was ever heard of him again. He was declared dead and lost at sea in 2012, and the mystery has stood still ever since. So, what happened to Jim Gray? First and most logical amongst the theories surrounding the case is that his boat sank, but there's two major flaws with it. One, what would have sunk the boat? We don't know this because if it did sink, we never saw the wreck, and there was an extensive search on the route he was taken to the Farallon Islands, where he planned on spreading his mother's ashes. There's other theories related to sinking, like collision with larger boats, but there was nothing reported about such a thing, and no emergency transmissions. Secondly, we have the man overboard theory. Gray was an old-timer while on this trip. It's possible he was swept overboard and drowned, and this theory makes sense except for one crucial flaw. Where is his boat? The third theory we have is one that accounts for the boat and the beacons that are supposed to activate never going off, which is that Gray wanted to vanish. He was an experienced sailor with resources. If for some reason he wanted to leave his life behind, he very surely could have done so, neatly explaining while nothing was ever found. The final theory is rather divorced from reality, which is that Gray was kidnapped for his technological prowess. By who? No clue. Why? Because he's a smart guy. It's easy to see that this is a fringe theory that doesn't make sense, especially with Gray being, in the modern realm of computer science, outdated. Though his advancements revolutionized tech in 2007, he was no longer a pioneer, and it'd be too much effort for not enough reward. Alright, last up in the mystery, we've got ghost camels in the American Southwest. The rush west obviously didn't come without its rush for innovation. One of the attempts, and I do emphasize attempts, was to utilize camels to ferry goods across the scorching deserts of the Southwest. Great idea, because camels are suited for deserts and very well, and for a brief while in the early 19th century, the army had a fucking camel corps. Unfortunately, a lot of the supporters of the camel business were in the American South, and Big Donkey was lobbying hard against camels. No, I'm not joking. Then, in 1861, a silly goofy started in America, and the Union abandoned the idea, later selling or outright abandoning the camels of the Camel Corps entirely. So in the 1880s, we just had camels chilling in the Mojave, which is odd, but alright. Unfortunately, not enough camels were released into the Mojave to support a sizable population. Maybe that is, fortunately, for the ecology of that place. But among the beasts unleashed was a camel with a red color and a skeleton on its back, known as the Red Ghost. Though certain accounts of it are 100% bullshit, the Red Ghost supposedly killed a woman and terrorized a cowboy, probably, and was shot by a guy who saw it eating his crops. According to the legend, the poor and mean beast had a dead body lashed to the back of it. So why am I talking about it on the Ghost Camel entry? Because it's important to understand the context, and also because it's literally the only goddamn thing I can find while searching for ghost camels in the American Southwest online. For about 50 years after the failed experiment, until the 1930s, camels were spotted in the wilderness and deserts of the West. However, this myth has mostly faded into obscurity, as they aren't seen all that much in the environment paired with the numbers couldn't support camels for long.
Good morning, everybody. Especially from my gigantic 5-head. I have my microphone absurdly close to my mouth because my sister is sleeping in her bedroom and I'm finishing editing this at like 5 a.m. in the morning before I upload it, and she has work at 9, so I'm trying not to be loud or wake anyone up, so that's why you get the deep husky whisper. Normally, people would have to either seduce me or pay me a sufficient amount to hear this in their ears, so consider yourself amongst the blessed few that you get to hear this from me. In much more important news, we just successfully finished another video. That's right, 30 minutes of me talking about shit, and it's done. Did you enjoy the video? Are you enjoying the whisper? Go ahead and press subscribe for more content like this. It's completely free, it helps me pursue my dreams, and you can always tell me to kill myself later. Now, with that out of the way, huge thanks to the patrons. They fund this whole endeavor. I'm not going to sensually whisper their names into the microphone, but that would be a funny bit to have. Regardless, the patrons, like I said, fund this whole endeavor, and their contributions are extremely important to the continuation of the channel as I get to enjoy the sublime pleasures of adulthood in its fullest, if you will. Now, if you'd like to join the Patreon, it's always down in the description. If you'd like to help me out without the commitment, you can always go and check out the merch. I would grab my book, but it's covered in stuff. But I do have a book that's out, so you can also support my creative endeavors by purchasing that. Now, with all of that self-aggrandizing advertising bullshit out of the way, I'd like to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for watching this far into all of the videos. Have a great time, and until next time, memento mori.